oh, I'm going to become a man possessed. This is just the beginning. And change needs to happen. And it doesn't need to just happen here in the state of Utah. It needs to happen everywhere. And we're just beginning.
So Kevin Franke, who is ex-husband or estranged husband to Ruby Franke, he was addressing a room full of Utah lawmakers who oversee the child welfare services. Him and his eldest daughter, Sherry Franke, are trying to write legislation to target the issues that are within DCFS, within reporting incidents and having children taken away, and police and DCFS workers actually having the ability to do that. There was actually one moment where Kevin admitted to the fact that DCFS workers had been trying to get in contact with him, but he was told to ignore their phone calls.
I was not contacted by police authorities once. Now, DCFS was trying to contact me repeatedly, but again, I was being indoctrinated just as much by Jody as Ruby was. And I was being coached the same way. They want to rip your family apart. They want to destroy your family.
Sherry Franke wasn't actually in attendance, but she did write this Instagram post right here. Sherry writes, "Very proud of my father who spoke in front of the state legislators today to advocate for change with DCFS policy. I had him put my name on his statement as I contributed to it and approved 100%. There are so many changes that need to be made in so many areas of law and society. This is just the beginning of our journey to make that change." There are actually quite a few things to highlight within this video and then also the interview that he did, which he did just outside of the room. He did say quite a lot of things which I hadn't really thought of before. Kevin and Sherry don't just want to be writing this legislation for the way that the DCFS workers should be conducting themselves or how the police should be conducting themselves. They also want to be making it known that Jody Hildebrand, they want her history and her records and exactly why she was terminated and all of the information to be made available to the public, which he refers to as a doppel audit.
To be licensed by this state as a professional mental health counselor, even after all that was apparently known about her by DOPL, the Department of Professional Licensing, since at least 2010. We call for a professional audit of DOPL regarding what it knew about Jody Hildebrand, when it knew it, and how it acted based on that knowledge. And we call for that audit to be transparent and shared with the public.
Kevin also goes on to say that Jody Hildebrand knew the laws, the DCFS laws and the rules like the back of her hand. And what she would tell Ruby was if any of the workers came knocking, to not answer the phone calls, to not answer the door, to not be seen, to not talk to them. And supposedly there's something called a 30-day almost respite where they'll keep on trying, but then after 30 days, the case is then dropped.
Ms. Jody Hildebrand, a professionally licensed mental health counselor in the state of Utah, knew the Utah child welfare system like the back of her hand. All they had to do were three things. 1, keep the children isolated from the world. 2, ignore all the phone calls from DCFS caseworkers. 3, not answer the door when DCFS and or police officers knocked. Because of the complete isolation of my children, there was not sufficient evidence based on our current laws for government to intervene despite the clear red flags recognized and reported by our close friends and neighbors and family as well. This allowed Jody and Ruby to emotionally and physically terrorize my children behind closed doors. And those authorities claim to be powerless. First, we are asking you legislators today to begin changing the laws in such a way that reported red flags from multiple individuals close to children, namely friends, neighbors, and family, be considered sufficient merit to take children into temporary protective custody without additional evidence of child.
Hence the reasoning why, when all of these neighbours were calling and family members, Sherry was calling, people were trying to get the attention of police and workers to go and investigate. They would go around to the house, they would actually see the kids there, but they weren't able to do anything. And then after 30 days, it was just dropped.
It was frustrating for me to hear the story of police officers As they said, they were standing on the front porch and they could see the children and they could see my former wife through the window, ignoring them. Even with all of the reports, all of the red flags that were given to them by our oldest daughter, Sherry, they still could not intervene. They were on the phone with a judge, waiting, and the judge finally said, nope, I'm not comfortable with this. You cannot intercede.
There's also that element of apparently Sherry had told Kevin that no worker has ever taken a child out of a home situation for mental abuse, which Kevin then adds he wants there to be a notice of the fact that there is such a thing as emotional abuse, mental abuse. But I find that completely wild how, no child has ever been taken for emotional abuse. Emotional abuse can be bad, if not worse in some cases, than physical abuse, especially when you're thinking about it from a minor's perspective.
Laws regarding emotional abuse need to be created and or improved in this state. DCFS caseworkers recently told my daughter Sherry that they have never once removed a child from an abusive home due to emotional in this state. Despite being much more rampant than physical, emotional abuse is poorly defined by our current laws.
The whole time that I was thinking about this case was, why were the workers just going around there and just knocking on the door and then not actually being able to do anything about it? It just seems completely backwards. As well as that, he also touches on the fact that no Utah parent should be able to just leave their kids unattended, which I kind of assume that maybe that should be a law. I didn't even realize that wasn't, so that people can't just abandon their minor children for days on end and just disappear off into the sunset. I'm just like, yeah, duh, obviously.
Laws need to become more clear, defined, and punitive regarding child abandonment. Utah parents should no longer be able to leave their minor children at home alone for days unattended. Finally, we cannot allow religious extremism to be an acceptable cover and shield for child in this state.
And I just know full well that my comment section is going to be like, religious extremists, like, did you see 8 passengers? I think that they were talking about religious extremists in the sense of like Jody and Ruby, of what like Jody Hildebrandt was going down that garden path. I am happy that Sherry and Kevin are going and they're trying to at least make an impact. And it sounds like Kevin really is a man on a mission, is determined, no matter what your thoughts and feelings may be towards it. I know that everyone has very differing opinions. I think it is a good thing that he is trying to make something good out of this really dark, horrible situation. He also wants to change how things are with life coaches. Now, there was a whole bit on life coaches a little while back. People were talking about what the hell is a life coach? Anyone can be a life coach. And it turns out that, literally anyone can be a life coach. That is very true. But when you have someone like Jody Hildebrandt, who literally had her license taken away, I believe it was it was given back basically. But it was never what Kevin is trying to argue for, is that there needs to be an audit on her doppel, which basically tells people exactly what went down.
A licensed mental health professional should not be able to just turn off the ethics and standards associated with his or her professional licensure by acting under the nebulous guise of something called a life coach.
Jody then just rebranded herself as a life coach and then tried to get other people to become life coaches, to send them all out on their life coaching journeys. It is completely unregulated, 110% completely unregulated. You see these life coaches just being thrown around everywhere, and Kevin and Sherry are wanting to make it so that there is a real process. It's not just, oh, I'm a life coach, just stick a sticker on it. And for anyone wondering who has not seen the video yet, yes, he is still in the process of getting his children back, but that is all he's saying. And the that's pretty much all he's going to say. That's all that we're ever going to be entitled to know. You know, I am happy, I'm pleased to see that at least Sherry has made amends with her dad, because there was, after that period of him basically accusing her of stealing his things, and there was that whole blow up incident outside the house when things were first happening, when things were first coming to light. A lot of people, I feel, hold a lot of resentment towards Kevin for that. You know, you never know the inner workings of like people's relationships, especially when trauma like this has happened. So I'm just pleased to see that Sherry is able to at least do something like this with her dad, which is a pretty big step, pretty bold move. I feel that a lot of people are going to think very negatively of this, but like I just said a minute ago, I feel that no matter what, this should be a positive coming out of something that is really quite dark and disturbing. We're going to be finding out more about what's happening with Jodie and Ruby by September, I do believe. It's been a little while now since they've actually been sentenced. Time has flown past. We're going to be finding out a little bit more about what's happening in September. But thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are in this world. Take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch up with you guys in the next video.